minute someone tells you not to panic, you feel panicky. Well, people were pre-panicking. Like, there's nothing to panic about yet. And ideally, there shouldn't be anything to panic about. And get the Discord. Fine, how's this sound? Panic no more than the usual amount.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Looks like we're about to...
Can you invite Ivan up here?
Find him in the list. Actually, I can just... Ivan, raise your hand.
Okie dokie. Cool. So, welcome to the Midjourney office hours. We do them every week at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Basically, what we do is we talk about what we're working on and talk about questions and what we're thinking about doing, and that's about it. So, I'm going to get started in a second. I wanted to try to record myself today so I could try something later. I have it set up right now. Okay, whatever. Cool. So we're gonna try a few different things today. There's a little tool that one of our teams are working on. People can throw questions and rate questions on a little question board. So we're gonna throw a link in here in the VC text channel. People can join the link, put in a user name, and then submit questions and rate questions from other people. We've never used this before in a group setting, so give it a shot. We're gonna keep posting it over and over again during the thing, and hopefully we'll use it. We'll try using it during the question session. If people see the link in the VC text, can people hear me?
Yep, can hear you, can see the link.
Link. There's the link. Okay. Cool. All right. Cool. So let's get started. Um, we're working on a few things. There's a big sort of overhaul of how we do personalization on the website that's being worked on. We're gonna try to get a version of the editor where we can import like non-Midjourney images and play around with that and see how it works. Um, we have some dev ControlNet stuff that's been iterating on, people have been playing with over the last few weeks. We've been testing out different versions of the 6.2 release. I think right now the team is like relatively negative about a 6.2 release. There are a few more things to test before we make that decision. However, we are going to try to make the decision this week. Um, yeah. Ivan's on the collective intelligence team that makes the tools like this and like the idea rating leaderboard that many people have used in the past on the main website. We're going to build a lot of really cool tools, and this is a real-time one that we're playing with. We've been using it more internally for the internal office hours, for the guides and mod stuff. So we're just kind of playing with it and see what we learn. A lot more people on here than usual, so like it's a good way to stress test the systems. All right. What else? Yeah, so whether or not we do a 6.2 is a bit up in the air right now. The team, most of the compute is going towards training testing video models with 6.1 and training V7. I think there's a lot of questions about whether we should release a 6.2, whether we should release like a 6.x video model, or whether we push everybody on V7. And I'm starting to lean more towards pushing people on V7, but I don't think we've made the final decision yet. And there's definitely a lot of areas where the team is fighting with the V6 model. And that's because the V6 model is probably like the most complicated image model on the planet right now. It's sort of optimized for performance, not for like simplicity. And so it just becomes harder and harder to change and harder to improve, even if it should be easy to improve. It's just like the system itself is like kind of held down by a lot of, they call it technical debt, basically. And so V7 is meant to be a simpler system that doesn't have that debt, as well as a much better system that can have higher performance in a lot of ways. So we are going to try to move more towards that. There's a lot of stuff going on in the aesthetic research land. Like there are some things we thought about shipping to bigger batches and using the big batches differently with more different aesthetics. There's definitely some things we're thinking about changing on the aesthetic side, like an aesthetic release for V6. But it's kind of in a research mode. Like we see things we definitely can do, but we're not testing them yet with guides and mods. So worst case scenario, that'll be a lot of good stuff for V7. Best case scenario, we'll have a few intermediary 6.x releases. But I am cautious around delaying V7 stuff because we're working on so many other things. So I'm definitely starting to push more people towards V7 as possible. You can't necessarily put an infinite number of people into it. So, we can't put everyone on it and it makes things faster, but we can start to rev up more and more people to things that will pull a week here, a week there off of that general release cycle. Yeah, we have like a bunch of minor updates for the website that we're thinking of doing, like some like tiny organization things that might make it a little easier that we have some ideas for. We've also generally are moving towards wrapping the website into like a little mobile app and a desktop app, just because most people don't know how to use it on their phone right now, and then we'll clean up the phone features, and so you can kind of have a nice phone version of things with you if you don't already. You can just like make a web app on your phone where it looks like an app icon. That works pretty well with the website right now. We'll make it a little better and just make it sort of more of a normal thing that everybody can get. We are also working on improving the explore page. We have a new rating system that we're going to try to put up that lets you help pick what goes on the front page, and we'll give people fast hours in exchange for doing it, like the pair rankings. And we're hoping that this might radically improve the quality of the Explore page. And so hopefully we'll announce that in the next week, and then we'll see how that works. And assuming that we get some people to do, some of the pair ranking people to do the front page ranking instead, in theory, yeah, the front page could get a lot better. And we would like to, we can kind of feel how it could be way better. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Like, for example, people make more landscapes than portraits, but we have no portraits on the site because it's basically they don't look big on the masonry grid. So that sort of stinks. And so we have ways of sort of rating the images independent of the aspect ratios. We can start to break out different front pages for different aspect ratios and start to interleave the aspect ratios so you kind of see nice tilings. Yeah. We're also getting the search back up for 6.1. It was kind of working a little wonky. There's a lot of like little Explore things that I think we can improve. There's some debate about sref explorers happening again, but we have a limited number of people to implement and design such things. But we do think about it. Yeah, I think there's a lot of small things we can do on the website, and then there's these big features. So bigger features are like changing how the Explore page works, having a totally new personalization system, and then the smaller folder things are, simpler, but we just don't have, we have a hard time. The current team can kind of only do one feature, like one or two major features at a time on the website right now. So our like total rate of development on the website is relatively slow, and in some ways it's lower than Discord because there's like actual details, things are supposed to look nice, but hopefully people appreciate the quality and the speed and all the other things we get from the website. Okay, I think that's mainly it. We are continuing to work on 3D things and video things and other things like that, as always. The storytelling team is working on a version of a cool storytelling thing that they're going to try to test with guides and mods in the next few weeks. And then if people are happy there, maybe I move towards letting everybody try it. Yeah, those are all the things off the top of my head. So now I'm going to start looking at the leaderboard. Oh, the storytelling was number 1. When is video coming? We have some video models that look reasonable. However, there's sort of a question of like whether we want to release one for V6 or try to move it towards the V7. It's quite expensive, so I'm starting to get like a little irritated with how much compute we can spend on it if we don't know we're going to release it, rather than putting that compute into V7. Yeah, so it's kind of some debate back and forth there. Yeah, V7 is a totally different architecture, totally different data. It's pretty different. I would say it's almost like a total rewrite. We have some depth control in that stuff. We have 2 versions. The team is kind of arguing over which one is better. It does work. Sometimes I don't like the ControlNet because it feels like photo filters, and I keep thinking about how I can put it somewhere else on the website. Because it feels just like it doesn't feel like normal Midjourney because it's just, yeah. So I'm trying to figure out how to organize that. Second, I sneeze. No, I want to sneeze. Will we be allowed to have a non-member gallery to show your friends? Maybe at some point. But there's so many ways to share a picture right now. It's hard for, we would rather focus on things that are more uniquely suited to us rather than put too much time into like kind of re-implementing Instagram features. We have some color palette stuff that works pretty well, but we don't quite have enough people to ship it right now. There's a lot of resource contention between the color stuff and the depth stuff and the drawing stuff and the aesthetic stuff, so we just can't do it all. Generating text is not intrinsically difficult. It's just the way that we architected the V6, the V4, V5, and V6 is like not able to do text, but it does do better aesthetics. And so one of the things we're trying to do with V7 is to make the model a bit simpler so it can kind of do everything better. The hive mind thing is just a way for people to submit questions and rank them right now. We're going to probably make something more complicated and sophisticated over time. Man, that leaderboard is tiny. I want a bigger leaderboard. We've worked on some personalized explore pages, and they definitely look a lot better. However, I'm still worried that there aren't enough people using personalization. So this is a big reason why I'm trying to focus on some kind of new personalization aspect of the website that kind of forces more people to use it. You know, I think like right now it's probably closer to like 10% of people are using personalized models, something really low, which kind of makes me upset. But I mean, to be honest, a lot of people just like don't pay attention to the stuff that to the features and just use the default. So we may have to force people through some kind of personalization at some point, just because it does improve the experience a lot. We definitely could improve the vary region stuff in the Discord app, but right now we're not focusing on Discord features. We're mostly focusing on web features. We definitely could do a smart selection tool for inpainting, but it seems like people want to edit real images more than add a smart selection tool, so we'll probably play with that first. In general, I think that if everybody just had personalization turned on, they would have a much way better experience. So to me, I kind of keep thinking about trying to figure out ways to get everyone to have some personalization. There are a lot more consistency and control things we could do, but I think it's just not the most important thing right now. We haven't figured out how video is going to work in terms of pricing. I mean, it'll probably work a little bit like an upscale where you can, you know, it'll use up some number of GPU minutes. We have some bigger batch stuff we're already playing with in V6, so we could release bigger batches for V6, but I'm not totally sure if we want to release bigger batches for V6 without changing the UI. I go back and forth on this. And then the second I talk about changing the UI, it gets blocked behind the 6 other features that we want to do with UI changes. So sometimes I wish we had like 1,000 people, but I mean, if we had 1,000 people, we might not be releasing anything, you know, just like OpenAI. Just more blog posts. More people doesn't necessarily mean you get more done, but definitely you feel the lack of people when you don't have a lot of people sometimes. We're definitely moving towards faster models. Real-time prompting is a thing that we've played with. The main question is, you know, when do we have real-time prompting with the sort of full quality model? Rather, because every time we make a lower quality model and make it real-time, it doesn't really feel good. Like, it's kind of like, I don't really want to use it that much. Someone asked what the clusters are. Ivan, maybe you can explain the clusters.
Sure. Hi. Yeah, clusters just try to split people up into 2 roughly equal groups that have maximally different preferences. Because sometimes the top thing on the leaderboard is something that, you know, no group wants especially, but it's kind of the average of people's ideas. So I would suggest, David, you occasionally check the cluster leaderboards to see if there's something at the top that you haven't covered. Hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're definitely looking at somebody asked if we're going to support other languages or better prompting more. I think V7 will both support more languages and like more styles of prompting. So I'm looking forward to that. We have a 6.2 that even does that a little bit, but I'm not sure if we'll release it. It's a little hard to read the lists when things jump around, Ivan. May need way bigger lists. Let's see. We don't think we're going to do something like style tuner, but there will be some kind of new style and personalization system. SREF and P do sort of different things. So the personalization doesn't just look at style, it looks at sort of like subject and objects too. Whereas this SREF tries to be only style. Personalization doesn't affect your prompt, it just kind of affects the things that you don't put in the prompt. It's sort of the things that are not specified more than the things that are specified. I don't think we're gonna try to avoid AIs that write prompts for you. I'd much rather have a visual interface where you figure out what you want, starting from very few words, rather than AI that just writes like a long barf-like prompt. I really don't like the GPT prompts. They are terrible in my mind. Like, so I would definitely want to avoid that kind of thing. It's definitely going to be more nuanced prompt understanding in the future. We will definitely do better face reference stuff. Yeah, I'm having a hard time. As I go further towards the bottom, things jump around more and more, so it's harder for me to read this. Don't know if I have like a great... If I have maybe reaching the end of this session. Any other things? Some people like Niji better than the regular Midjourney model. I think that's just subjective. I think it's just subjective. Like if you watch a lot of anime, you're more likely to like the model that was tuned by people who watch a lot of anime. The base model is trying to satisfy everybody, and the Niji model is definitely not. So you're either in that or you're not in that. You know, like for me, yeah, I don't prefer it, but I mean, I know for a lot of people who watch a lot of anime, they really like it, and that's sort of legitimate, and a lot of people like it, so that's great. We might be having some Niji personalization coming out soon. I think there's a test version of that floating around, though I have no idea what fucking happened to it. I'm gonna ask in the channel.
It is currently being tested.
On the Black Ops server?
Yep.
Okay, great. Then we may release a Niji personalization. It is hard for me to get down these lists at this point, but I think we might be done for this hive mind session. Is there no what's the live sentiment? Was the live sentiment not working, or is everyone happy? I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna switch back to looking at Discord now. That was fun. All right. Now I'm looking back at the VC Tech channel. I will let people throw some questions in there. If anybody has any questions, I feel like that you wanted me to things in the VC Tech channel. Oh, people just didn't know to click the live sentiment. That's fun. Okay. All right. There's no plans for 6.1 Niji. Synthetic data is too vague. Sorry. We did talk about video. We're playing with it. Not sure what the release strategy is. We definitely would love to have more developers, but the problem is volunteer developers or part-time developers is that they usually need as much management as a full-time person, but they get less done. Okay, now people are re-asking questions. Yes, they'll be much more nuanced than conceptual prompt understanding. I don't think a Q3 or Q4 would affect the photo style. I think there is some general risk around some of the user data smoothing out faces. I think that will not be an issue as much in V7. And we probably not use user data again to do the 6.1 like thing that we did. So, our current upscalers are more meant to be they're more accurate and conservative. There are other upscalers you can use that just hallucinate a lot of detail, usually at the wrong scale, which means if there's feathers on a bird, you'll be like, wow, there's more feather detail, but actually there's twice as many feathers as they should be, and they're all half the size they should be. So there are these tile-based, they call them upscalers, and I don't know, in my opinion, they're generally bad, but in some rare instances they are good. And they can also be good if you upscale 10 times and tweak a lot of things until it looks good. So, you kind of have the average thing is worse. The peak case could be better. So, we've definitely thought about doing stuff like that, but maybe in the future we'll have a more complicated, advanced upscaler mode. But honestly, I think the subtle upscaler is probably just good, good for most situations. And then if the subtle upscaler doesn't work, the creative one usually fixes the things that you wanted to fix. So to some extent, I think that it does a pretty good job. There'll always be a no personalization feature. I think if you're afraid of personalization, just try it. It doesn't hurt you. Just try it. Because in general, it always improves things. It's sort of definitionally meant to make you like the images more. Yeah. I'm not really trying to get you to cancel any other specific AI tool. I don't really. Yeah, I don't care. You can have whatever subscriptions you want. I'm not trying to I know some people in the AI space are for total world domination, and I just don't give a fuck. There's stuff that I want to make that I think are important, and I'm gonna try to make those things. And anybody else can make other things that they like. And we're hopefully gonna make a lot of things that are helpful in the world and that people love. And we're not gonna make everything that's important in the world or everything that people loves because we're not crazy or delusional. So yes. Sorry. Real talk, I guess. There's already a consistent character feature. It could be better. It will get better. There could be a lot of consistent features, whether it's environment or other things, and we will build things like that in the future. But right now, we do not have all the features. Definitely trying to balance complexity and simplicity. It's definitely hard. The model will definitely work better with non-English prompts in the future. I think CREF works fine if it's already a Midjourney image, but isn't really meant to work on non-Midjourney images, and that will improve in the future. I'm not sure if we're gonna have not sure if it makes sense to do a relaxed mode only plan, just because relaxed mode is not necessarily way cheaper for us right now. I mean, it's cheaper for us in the middle of the night, but it's not cheaper for us in the middle of the day. So I don't totally know what to do Yeah, for that. We could have a more strict relax mode where we only run the thing if it's like not costing us money, but then you might only be able to use it like during half of the day. I don't think we're making a 4x upscaler anytime soon right now. We're not updating Describe anytime soon right now. For V7 we will. We are thinking of adding the Discord prefer set stuff to the website. A lot of people don't like it, but I think we're going to try to do it. We're going to try to force everyone to have personalization. Like, I think we want it to be on by default, but you can turn it off. Like you can turn off anything else. Yeah, it's definitely have to like repeat things a lot, and definitely, I mean, to be honest, like being a leader is partially just repeating yourself all the time because people don't have perfect memory and not everybody's always listening and not everybody's always there. So, I do believe in the power of repetition, and I think it's like part of my job. I wouldn't mind having like an AI David with a deepfake voice that, has the whole thing in it, but maybe in the future there will be more AI Davids to help the David. There are a lot of things we'd like to improve about the editor, but we just don't have time to do it, unfortunately. We're not planning on having a relax mode for upscaling because upscaling always. I'm not sure if relax mode doesn't work for upscaling, right? Or I'm not sure. I think it's been different at different times. I can't really keep track of it. Trying to find why not hire more? Hiring is one of those things where like you can't use 8 women to make a baby in 1 month. But you can use 8 women to make 8 babies simultaneously. So depending on the type of job you're doing, whether it's about doing things in parallel or doing single things faster, hiring people can be good or bad. So in theory, we could have more people working on the website doing more features simultaneously because that's a parallel process. However, implementing features on a website is often not just adding code, but thinking about the design of the thing. And and then often the design is not super obvious. So I think we're really bottlenecked on having more people on the website who can both design and implement front end things. So I don't know if that's just a front end engineer or like a front end engineer plus designer, but that's probably the biggest thing blocking a lot of web features right now. We don't have enough of those people. There's already a section on the website where you can kind of vote on things that are important to you. I think it's kind of closed right now. To me, it's pretty obvious what people want. Like they want better hands, they want better faces, they want better control, they want better like skin quality. So I would say the list is pretty clear to us. We don't really need more voting. And everything is sort of bottlenecked behind like a single monolithic model release. So we're in kind of a tricky situation where I think having more things that we're supposed to do would not help. We just have to get the next major model out. But once we do that, we're definitely going to have a big voting session to help figure out what's the most important set of things to do next. We haven't decided yet about relax mode like video things. Data centers in space don't make sense. I mean, not right now. Maybe one day, but I don't think they make sense right now. I mean, data centers on Earth work fine. We're not running out of space for data centers. In general, you only want to put things in space where there's something like there's a real advantage to it. So it can make sense to make chip factories in space, because then you can use like X-rays from the sun to carve the chips or something. We're not planning on making style codes consistent across versions right now. I would say we're not really very motivated by things that other people do in the space. We kind of see like most of the research in the space is kind of bad. But usually what happens is like for our model size, like and data set, we are like 10x better than everybody else. But then sometimes somebody will like improve the data set or make a model twice as big as ours, and it will do like one thing that our stuff doesn't do, and then everybody will be like, "Oh my god!" But it's like usually just like, okay, there's a data thing we don't have, or the model needs to be a little bigger over time. And so most of the space right now is just making models bigger and improving data sets, but not really doing much in terms of like innovating on the fundamentals of the space. So yeah. So I'm not really influenced by it. I kind of wish there was more, like I wish more people in the AI space had like beliefs about things. But in general, a lot of people, they just sort of want to like uh, a lot of the company, like a lot of the AI models are made of pure distilled FOMO. Just like people are just scared of missing out or not making money, so they're just like trying to run as hard as they can to not miss out or make money. Whereas for us, like we're really trying to do a lot of fundamental research and understand like the nature of aesthetics and beauty, and trying to do all this community stuff and trying to build these exploration tools and help people sort of explore like the sort of like what you personally find beautiful. And like there's a lot of stuff we're doing because we have kind of opinions and beliefs about things. And so we don't really function off FOMO like everyone else. That said, I do think we did mess up some of our release schedules this year. Like we probably should have had like a data only model release, a size only model release, an architecture only model release. We probably could have 3 releases, but instead a lot of them have kind of bottlenecked behind one release. And I think that's a good hard lesson and never going to let us do a release like that again. But in the future, I think that that'll go better. Explore the button on the explore page to jump back to the top. I think you just click explore and it goes back to the top. I think the team feels like there's a lot to do, but I think it's also been a little scrambled because there's too many things. And so I think we really sometimes need to do fewer things. And so I think and break the teams out a little bit in different ways. So I think we're going to definitely change the way that we work on projects next year. I don't think hands and feet are getting worse. I think that's illusion. Closed. Midjourney doesn't know what a closed throat tennis racket is. I don't think I know what a closed throat tennis racket is. What? What is a closed throat tennis racket? Okay, that's cool. Maybe the next version, which has a lot more data, should be better at different tennis rackets. We use Claude for things. I think mostly just we use it internally. Yeah, the personality tests are pretty cool. We're gonna do more. We're definitely finding some cool things, and we're gonna release some reports on the demographic and personality stuff that we're doing. So I think the plan is to do another personality test in the next week, and then one more the week after that. And then we will have everything we need to do a really cool report on where aesthetics come from. You can hide things. You don't need to delete things. We're not deleting images. Even if we gave people a button to delete images, it wouldn't make any difference because like 20% of people could delete 100% of their images. It just doesn't matter. So we're not going to have a delete button just to help people delete, like save data on our storage things. At some point, what we'll do is because we store all the images in PNG right now, which is like lossless compression. At some point, we'll probably go back and say, if your images are more than a month old and you haven't checked a button, we will turn them all into high quality compressed JPEGs. And then that will like reduce our storage by like 10x. And so nothing else really has any, comparison to that. Definitely think language models could be more creative, but I think definitely people aren't there's not a lot of taste going into language models right now. So, and everyone's trying to make them into kind of vapid assistants. So they definitely could be a lot better. I mean, they're smart assistants, but they have like no personality. So we don't have any specific date for when we're doing JPEG, but we'll probably do some kind of JPEG archiving thing at some point. It's not like super urgent. Probably next year sometime. We'll do some kind of tiered JPEG compression thing. And when you do a JPEG at maximum compression, it's pretty hard to notice. You can already do batch download by clicking and dragging over things. Do language models think? Kind of. I don't know. I mean, you could say like asking if machines think is a little bit like asking if submarines swim. This is like a famous question for a famous like quote from somebody. Who's the Dijkstra? I forget. But yeah, like the basically like do submarines swim? Kind of. Yes, no. Do machines think? Yes, no. They swim as much. Machines are thinking as much as submarines are swimming. Definitely. For sure. Yeah. Are language models alive or like conscious? I think if our language model is conscious is probably a more interesting question. And the answer is probably that the models are zero or non-zero conscious, meaning like somewhere between like I would say that I would say the language models are definitely more conscious than or at least as conscious as a spider, but probably not as conscious as a mouse. It's like somewhere in that territory. But I mean, consciousness is also kind of weird because like every time you talk to it, it's like it creates a new one for that one thing and then it disappears. So it's kind of like constantly booting up from scratch. But then, one could say our brains are also kind of new versions every time you go to sleep and wake up. So it's now it gets kind of philosophical. No one knows. No one knows. I don't think LangChain remembers as far as like, you know, the weights are usually things are cleared out of the weights. Like, so it clears the memory every time it runs. Usually it's not storing state forever. How much do you look at upcoming tech with the possibility of incorporating it into Midjourney? We definitely think about upcoming tech and how to incorporate. Like, we definitely are thinking about things in the future. What are some of the type features that are used on the site? I mean, Explore is used a lot. Creation is used a lot. Organize is used a medium amount. Definitely could be better. Definitely going to do a multi-year roadmap at some point. I don't think the Midjourney model is particularly conscious. My feeling is that the current models are probably as conscious as a flower is. And a flower probably has non-zero consciousness. I definitely think of the Midjourney thing as more of a plant right now than as an animal. So more of like you know, you're all like the person who uses the model is like a bee, and then the models are the flowers. So it's like, you know, the flower tries to be beautiful for the bee, and then the bee chooses which flowers live and die, and then that kind of becomes a co-evolving ecosystem. But on the whole, we try to think of the thing that we build more as like a vehicle. It's like how a car is a vehicle for motion and you move through the use of a car. We'd like to think that what we're building is a vehicle for imagination, and you can imagine through the use of this vehicle. Weirdness is usually trying to make something that looks good, but it's not sure if it looks good. Yeah, especially if you use personalization, it's really trying to make you happy. We've definitely looked at doing different forms of organization. I think there's a lot of different things that can be done here. Um, um, we've definitely thought about having a way for people to like meet others that have similar aesthetics to you. I think we're gonna build some new thing for that, but it's not. It'll kind of be like a new website at some point that has more of that stuff. Uh, oh my gosh, so many people are messaging me. Cat girls assemble. We don't want to be sexist. Cat girls and cat boys, all cat people are welcome. We're gonna try to release some storytelling stuff in the near future. I thought about just showing off a video of it, but I think we're probably just gonna try to move towards something that people can use and see how things go. Yeah, I don't think I want to make a dating app, but I wouldn't mind having something that people. I don't think the future of dating apps is something that's explicitly for dating, but something that can be used for dating but isn't necessarily specifically made for it. So I think there's definitely going to be some stuff like that in the future. Um, we're definitely going to try to talk more about secret projects as we get towards the end of the year. Trend finder is kind of a nice word. Midjourney. I keep thinking of meat, MEAT. Meat. It's like the grill guy. Sorry, there's like an old meme. Midjourney, yeah. Oh, that was such a good old picture. That was like one of my favorite old weird Midjourney pictures. I don't remember. I think it was like V4. Wait, ancient. What was the meat man from?
That was during the beta test.
Oh wow,
2 days we had beta live.
it's from the beta. It's so much better than anything else you saw at a Stable Diffusion. Kind of crazy. Meat Man. Yeah, the Meat Man was definitely a moment where I'm like, oh my god, do we really want Midjourney to be about this? Maybe time to. In theory, I wonder. Have you tried making a Meat Man in V6?
I think we were actually joking about it a few weeks back. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I wonder if we could make a Meat Man in V6. I don't know if there's like people a bit. It's like when things get popular, sometimes you get less weird people, and then things become less weird. So like back in the 90s, the internet was just like a weirder place because there's this intrinsic assumption of like, well, who goes on the internet? And like, I don't know anybody who's on the internet. And whenever I think November, was it November? Yeah, whenever November would come around, like a flood of people would come in from universities. And it would be like, kind of a pain, like, oh, it's November again. And then one day, AOL, America Online, started sending out free CDs to everybody around November to get onto the internet, and a huge wave of people came in. People were like, "Oh, it's just November," but it never stopped, and so they call, or it's September. Okay, maybe September. They call it like the eternal September, where like the idea is like the September never stopped, and basically the internet kind of never was what it once was. There were just sort of some people who flooded in, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, maybe we need more. Well, I don't know. We definitely want to try to build more things to encourage weirdness, and trying to figure out the best way to do that still. It's kind of like yeah. I think with a lot of the sort of collective intelligence things right now, it's really easy to make something kind of like generally good for everyone, but then you do like lose out on the you basically do lose out on creativity a bit. And so I think there's a lot of questions on how we kind of encourage creativity more as we have more people involved in things. Midjourney Online. MOL. Midjourney Online has kind of like a weird I want the little like yeah. I would really like there to be a Midjourney swag. I thought about doing a swag competition. We're not talking about any Midjourney hardware yet. Okay, we can do a little bit of voice questions for a little bit.
Hey, David.
Hello.
Sorry, that was sudden. You'll hear a lot of my Midjourney pings in the background. So, okay, so this is my ninth call. Just a philosophical note is that our question. Okay, here's how I'd phrase it. Like when I'm a designer and when I work with people like creative directors, they have like opinions on things. Like I'll just say I send them a comp in the olden days. And they sit there and like with their facial expression, they might kind of like grimace or like, I like this part. And then like it's like rich with information that he gives me, not just via like words, but his whole like emotional expression, right? I can kind of tell. And then compare that to like getting the same notes over like a text message, which is like this needs to be bigger, that needs to be smaller. It's like way less information. know what I mean? And it's like harder to understand. And I think that my point is that when we are prompting and I am trying to make changes to an image that Midjourney has given me, it's like I'm being a creative director, but I'm also trying to squeeze my language back into a prompt in order to modify what I want. And it's hard to deny that the future will be much more like, in my opinion, it will be like I'm having a conversation with the AI. It's like, no, no, no. Remove that thing on the left. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, now make it sunset. Okay, now change this a little bit and that. So I guess my question is like, do you see that type of conversation as becoming inevitable? And like, do you see like a bridge to get there?
I go back and forth on the conversation thing. I think we built a version for V6 and we didn't like how it felt. We'll definitely try it again for V7. We'll kind of like I think it's a thing that we will be regularly looking into, but so I don't want to like completely rule it out as a thing that we'll play around with. However, if I was going to be more philosophical about it, I would say that it's probably not it's probably not the right interface for the future. It kind of overestimates the like linguistic ability of people. It probably better if you're talking to a person who draws things, it might be more necessary to have that kind of process. But if the thing can just make 100 images in 3 seconds, it should probably just give you a large set of images and you should be like more like this, less like this, more like this, less like this, more like this, less like this, and it'll just converge on it. And that will probably always give you a better result. And you can kind of keep doing it forever until you get to exactly what you want. So I think we're more likely to see something that looks like that than something that is like the lingual, as I said, because yeah, the lingual version, it puts you in a situation where very few people necessarily know how to express how they want it to be different. And the language is, I think language is really good for making random references to things. Like there's no faster way in the universe for me, like I can just say Facebook or something and it just immediately creates that concept and I got to that really fast. Whereas I can use words to kind of give you directions or amounts of things. It's hard to be like, yeah, I want 35% more red. I want to move it to the left 22%. I wanted to pull it out 5% and I want to like crop on the left, I'll also rotate like 4 degrees, it's just words aren't really great for that. And then on top of that, like, yeah, I mean, I think the ability to specify something is also harder than the ability to sort of say which direction you like. So in theory, whatever you can express in words is probably below your ability to discriminate in like like you can probably, if you could just say I like that image more, I like that image less, you can probably get to something that's better quality than you could if it was required that you would have to describe in words how you want everything to be different over and over again. There's some like theories on like the nature of intelligence here, and that like generating is harder than discriminating, meaning like it's harder to express something in words than it is to tell if a word sounds right or not. And so that kind of same thing applies to imagery and other forms of media too. And so in theory, you want controls that are more based off of like discriminating which thing is more in your direction that you like, rather than trying to force someone to generate each step from scratch. Yeah, I think
So
they're definitely unique. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
There are definitely, I think, important opportunities to add like other forms of tools into the process. But I think all I can say is that, like, from a mathematical standpoint and on like the sort of theory of intelligence, which we can start to make relatively strong conclusions from AI, like the discriminator versus generator thing, is something that's kind of just known now that like it's easier to tell if something is a cat or a banana than it is to generate an image of a cat or a banana. You know, like it's sort of it's well understood now. And so in theory, that mathematical ramification has certain ramifications in the user interface space for how humans should also control these things. But I think we know that. I think there's other areas where we don't know, which is like, if we want to give people some really specific controls, what kind of controls are most important? Obviously, things like I'm telling a story and I need to have like some place or object or character, be consistent. That seems pretty important. But then the idea of like, how important is it long term for like to kind of say I want to move this a tiny bit to the left or a tiny bit to the right, or like what are those kinds of things, or like how important is that? In theory, I think because it's been so hard to make an image for so long, people tend to overthink single images and they tend to underthink like the story or the world. This is why I guess we can make a $1 billion movie with a terrible script. But in theory, if you free up attention in one place, it gives you more. Basically, if we free people up to make better images, there's an interesting question of whether we want to give their spare like mental energy into tweaking the subtleties of the image more, or whether it's more important to let them like build out their sort of like more interactive story world, from it. Or maybe they would rather have like a collage of things instead of one thing, or it's not totally clear to me. I think we'll figure that out in time. We're gonna try to make some more extreme things, like we're gonna try like our color palette controls. We're gonna try some of these depth control nets and pose nets, and we're gonna try some drawing tools. I'm probably more excited about the drawing tools and less excited about the other ones, because there are some people who just have like decades of drawing experience, and giving them the ability to steer the models instantly with the drawings could lead to really cool stuff. The drawing thing is in theory like the infinite degrees of freedom, but of course the issue with drawing is that like most people can't do it, so you immediately like remove 90% of people from being able to use it. But a lot of people on Midjourney, a lot of the community on Midjourney can draw pretty well, so which is kind of interesting every time we do a survey. So I think a lot of the Midjourney community could use a drawing tool. So I am very curious. I think the drawing thing is the thing I'm most interested in, for whatever it's worth.
That is freaking cool, and it reminds me of this moronic scene from Starship Troopers. You remember that, when like he draws like a picture of himself, and then he's like, "Now kiss the girl," and like the drawing started like kissing or something like that, whatever. But I'll just say one last thing and get off. It's just on the previous note, it's like I kind of envision the system, it's like an advanced form of personalization where it can like see me through the webcam and see in my eyes like how I perceive that image, and understands like by the language that I speak, like how I really feel about it. And it's like more like a hyper advanced form of personalization that is better at reading you as a person and your reaction to things. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think there's definitely better user interfaces still, which is one reason why we want to push a little bit on the hardware side in the future. So we're definitely going to try to make some new hardware and new user interfaces around making things. But I don't know. I think some of this we're just gonna have to build and figure it out.
Well, that all sounds awesome. I'm stoked about depth. I'm stoked about drawing because I can actually draw. And it gives people a reason to like learn to draw and to coexist. And it's like, it's cool to empower artists. Anyway, thank you for answering my question. And I'll let the next caller go. See you later.
See ya.
Hey, I have one question. So, if Midjourney's mission is to reach the so-called world model simulation, you kind of touched on base on the hardware part already. So I'm curious if you can share what are some interesting ways you're thinking developing Midjourney's hardware that can potentially help shape a form that world model eventually. I'm thinking in top of my head, would it be something more interactive, like a gaming, where user can use the hardware to kind of interact with inside simulation, so therefore you can also collecting some of very useful data. I'm just kind of speculating here. Again, like feel free to share whatever you can. I'm just kind of curious, what are some interesting ways you are thinking of that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's hard to say. We're not really specifically saying what we're working on, but you could imagine like, maybe if the world is world model is 3D, maybe at some point we should have some kind of 3D display stuff. I don't know if that's true, but like maybe it would feel more compelling. So maybe 3D like one of the reasons maybe 3D display stuff becomes more common in the future, whether that's like a glassless 3D thing or a thing you wear on your head or something. Similarly, you might want different ways of interacting with it. That's not just typing prompts. If you're kind of going through lots of images, like the mouse and keyboard wasn't really meant to go through 1,000 images, and neither was a tablet. So those things are not ideal. Even if we just wanted to do drawing, like there would almost be an argument for us to make our own drawing thing, because almost everything that has a drawing feature has like a 3 or 4x margin. So it's all like kind of expensive for not in
Like,
ways that aren't totally necessary for our business.
like drawing pen type of thing, or are you thinking of something else?
Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to do some kind of drawing interface, it could be a pen, it could be anything. But I don't think I think basically there's a set of input things and a set of output things, and the questions are, what are the inputs that are most powerful? What are the outputs that are most desirable? And then what different I think with outputs, it's probably there's more than one way of say showing a 3D image, whereas there's like fewer ways to press a button than there are ways of showing a 3D image. So I think it's going to be a combination of input and output stuff, but I'm not going to say exactly what my opinion. I mean, I think I have stronger opinions than what I'm saying right now, but I'm not going to say. I don't want to announce anything yet.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Of course. And then going back to sort of like the data and new model, do you think, because the arguments for a lot of people is, oh, we need more data, or we need to build a more a new model, or do you think is a combination of both, in your opinion, that we do need more data, but we also need something different that currently is not really existing yet on the model side?
I think all of the things are pretty new still, so you're going to see totally different models and totally different data, but it's hard to understand what the most important thing is. So in general, everyone's kind of doing everything, trying to figure out what works.
That makes sense. Cool. That's all my question today.
All right, thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
So, just wanted to touch bases on what's going on right now. People are asking about the type of conversation we're going to be having with Midjourney, right? And right now it's kind of like a genie. You imagine what you see, but there's other things that could be like a secretary, partner, workmate, book writer. How are you going to separate that and get better feedback from people and get descriptions that tell why the AI said, "Hey, I'm going to make this look like that," and how is that conversation going to play out?
Sorry, this is a conversation talking to an AI about what you want, or talking to everybody about
Well,
what they want from the AI?
with Midjourney, the conversation you have, like for instance, Meta is a secretary type of AI. Spotify, whatever, has their own music AI, and Midjourney is the Imagine AI. So, is it going to continue being a genie per se, or are we going to get better feedback from each image, and instead of it just having a description, it says, I drew this with red background here because of this or something, and um, I just I like it how it is, um, especially with when you can go from one image and generate four, or you can just have it make multiple duplicities of one image. So for per se, you could have change poses and stuff like that. So let's say you got I generate Super Saiyans all the time. So I did Super Saiyan Genie recently, and you know if I go for very strong, it gives me multiple images of the same type. And can we use these for like books and stuff, or can we? Uh, is this going to have better video editing skills than other new AIs? So many questions to ask, but I would like to hear from you now.
Yeah, I think it's probably just good to assume that everything's gonna change, and that everything is in a very like transitory state right now, and we don't yeah, you can't really assume that anything that exists right now is like it's more like where are we? It's almost like, you ever see the first bicycle? You know what the first bicycle looked like? It had like the
Big
really big wheel,
wheels, yeah, the handlebar, yeah.
like the big wheel in the front, little wheel in the back. That's where we're at right now on terms of the AI models. So everyone's basically riding around the big wheeled one, and they're like,
Hmm.
I wonder if bicycles in the future will have bigger wheels in the front.
Oh, don't tell me. We used bicycle wheels in a robot I made in high school for robotics. And if I could change one thing, I would use sturdier wheels. So,
Yeah, so we're
uh,
kind of in like that sort of the funky looking original
well, you know
bicycle.
what? The scooters were out around that time too, and the scooters are everywhere nowadays. So, um,
Scooters.
oh, well, I live in Canada. So, uh, it was invented by a lady. Back in 1817. So yeah, that's the big bike. That was what, like early 1900s.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about the history of the bicycle.
Okay,
1886.
1913. Yeah, 1886. Oh wow. Okay. I mean, everyone believed we'd have flying cars by now, but
It
uh,
looks like there are ones with similar wheels in the early 1800s, so I don't know exactly. I think it's something we can ask. Yeah. I don't have the answers right now, but
oh, I didn't mean to put you on the spot or anything. I was just uh, okay. So then another question I would have is more on like account types. Can I use all the work I have done generating Super Saiyans and sort of make my own arc or storyline? Because as an independent, anime maker, or do I have to level up my subscription? Like, how I never. Um, I'm expecting you guys to be releasing videos soon, so that's because last week the conversation went on about that for a tad bit. Um,
um, we're gonna try not to force anybody to change their subscriptions to try the features, but some features might be more expensive and may want people to have higher subscriptions to use them a lot. Like the video will probably be more expensive than upscaling, and so if you
yeah.
do a ton of video, it's like doing a ton of upscaling.
Okay. Um. All right. So it'd be the difference between fast and relax, and then subcategory for videos, fast and relax too, or is it third?
I don't think we've decided yet whether we probably will not start off with a relax mode for video. And then if we find ourselves having extra computers that could be doing video, we would consider doing it.
Okay,
But
and I'll leave you off with one more thing. Are you now that the website is live, are you considering giving us users the ability to do referrals and sort of earn rewards that way?
not currently, but we just don't have. We're trying to focus our if we can only make like one feature a week, we would definitely want to focus on the features that most people will use. And I don't think most people would do the referral system.
Well, I mean, Google Mail, I had it when it was invite only, and that it took off like 100%, being one of the highest grossing search
True. I
engine.
don't think there was like I don't think it gave you rewards though for referring somebody, but you could. It was like an invite only. The only way to get in it was to have a referral.
Yeah.
So we did that at the beginning for Midjourney too.
Oh, I must have
Um,
missed that.
but anybody can get in now. You don't need an invite, and so because anybody can get in,
Well, I mean, like you can do something like, let's say if somebody finds this thing, they pay 100, they get free trial 100 usages, and if you get a referral from someone, then they get 200 hour, and that's the minimum way of giving people an incentive to do referrals. And you don't have to have a reward mechanism either, than for people who are new to the AI platform.
yeah, I go back and forth. Like right now, I kind of prefer people to like. I kind of want you to recommend somebody get a Midjourney subscription if you think they should get it, not to get extra hours for it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So
I mean,
um,
this platform is still reliant on Discord, or now that the website is out, can we get marketed to people that don't want to be using Discord?
you can use it without Discord now on the website.
Okay, so that's a keynote.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Last week I had my phone. I had a whole bunch of, when I was in the bus when you pulled me up, and I had a bunch of questions. Let me pull up that. So it was about SREFs. NFTs. Images owned. I'm not completely familiar with what NFT actually is, but are these images gonna be claimable for that?
Not really something that we're trying to do. I think we want to avoid like creating artificial scarcity, or we want to avoid monetizing the images. So like I mean, obviously people can do what they want with the images once they make them, but we don't really want to spend our time encouraging extra monetization or scarcity type systems. We're kind of trying to create like I think in a lot of ways the current community is kind of a like you have to pay money to get in, but once you're in, it's kind of a post scarcity zone. Which is kind of cool. Like people are just kind of making things for fun and sharing things and kind of like that. So I think
Yeah,
the second people could kind of sell things, it would change that. And then it's like, don't make my image. I want to sell that image. Don't
right.
you stole my prompt.
Okay, and so for an art-related questions, is there going to be a way to do a top-to-down view and make it like a token option? Because I play a game on Roll20, and the tokens are really hard to generate, from what I've seen. And on top of that, do you use the golden ratio in the art rendering on the AI side?
There's nothing specifically encoding the golden ratio into anything. It might learn the golden ratio if people use it a lot, but it doesn't have anything that it's specifically like. We don't try to put anything like that in there. Yeah, the Roll20 thing looks cool. I mean, in the future, it definitely like the next version might just do it because it has more data, but I don't.
Oh, cool.
We're gonna
Yeah.
have to wait and see, I guess.
So that could happen soon or then later. I like that.
It might, yeah, hard to say, but definitely worth trying as the new version comes out.
Okay. Um, yeah, those were my questions there.
Right. Well, thank you for coming on. I want to give one or two more people a chance to talk, and then that's it for the day.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you very much. All right, maybe one more person.
Oh, hey, it's me.
Hello.
I thought I was going to be last. I actually was thinking about last week. I wanted to talk to you about. I was watching a show about tardigrades, and
Mm-hmm.
they were talking about how they took some on the space shuttle, and I think they lived through it. But then they were also talking about how, like, just a few weeks ago, or well, probably a month or two ago, they found some watermarks on the side of a wall of rocks or something like that that looked like I want to say leopard print. Maybe I'm wrong. They did say that those things kind of led people to believe that maybe it was like a microscopic life form. Have you heard about that?
Is this on Mars, you said, or like on Earth, space, or where?
On Mars, yeah.
Oh, I saw something on Mars. Yeah, I mean, there's kind of like a new thing every month for like I feel like this,
Maybe
and
I'm
I
like,
try not to spend too much time on it because it's sort of
yeah,
like it's exciting. Um, but I kind of just assume that there was life on Mars and Venus at some point, and that there is probably still some microbial life on there somewhere.
yeah,
But yeah, I kind of just assume that, and then I think I kind of I don't get too distracted by the news right now just because
yeah.
um
Like for me, it's like one of the only things that I probably have ever caught watch it like I've ever watched about the topic. So I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And you probably hear about stuff like that all the time, or it's like just another distraction or noise.
I mean, there's
But
a
for
lot
me,
of
it's
really
like,
cool evidence of life on other planets right now. Unfortunately, it's really hard to like make the full conclusions yet for any of it. So I
mm,
think it's one of those situations where like finding life on another planet is such a big deal that it has to be like really, really, really like this is definitively like true.
yeah,
Um, yeah. Otherwise, like everybody, the otherwise are not really willing to accept it. They're like, well, this wasn't in the Bible. And if we discover space whales or if we discover like intelligent life on another planet, everyone's like, well, did Jesus go to the other planets too? Like, and
yeah,
like, so I feel like yeah, because it kind of like raises a lot of questions for people. It almost has to just sort of like wait until it's super, super hyper definitive. Otherwise,
right,
like, yeah, so I just sort of believe that it's true because I think almost all scientists, almost all astronomy related scientists that aren't hyper religious sort of think it's obvious that it's true, but like not a specific thing, but just in general. And then until we have the specific thing that convinces everybody, I'll just not let myself get too distracted.
yeah,
Does that make
um,
sense?
yeah, definitely.
I think we have like whales on Europa or something. Like I think there's probably some like big aliens somewhere in the solar system. Not necessarily ones, not necessarily like whales with spaceships on Europa, but I think they're probably like big multicellular life somewhere. Europa
You
is
have
probably the
like,
best candidate, right?
do you think that like you have well, I mean, like you would know. How's your like interest level about like in the ocean, like the ocean life? It's kind of like the opposite of the space life. You have like a level of interest about like deep sea, like Mariana Trench stuff, or no?
I'm probably more
Or has
excited
it always
about
just been
like
space for you?
yeah, I mean I'm like a little bit more I'd say I'm like a little bit more curious about like the Antarctica stuff, like what weird animal like what's buried under Antarctica's ice,
Oh
you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely. That's
But I know
so.
there's definitely weird stuff in the ocean too. I mean, there's weird stuff everywhere.
Yeah. What are they keeping in Antarctica? And I need to know. Like seriously, that's on my list of things that I am deeply interested in. But yeah, I mean, like, how's David doing? I just wanted to come up. People are always asking what's David up to? Always think it's nice to come up and ask how David's doing. And like I always want to like get like a list of things that are super cool and that you might not otherwise get a chance to talk about outside of Midjourney, like Oprah's list of
Mm,
favorite things, you know,
Um,
kind of. I just wanted to
um,
check in.
what going on? Mm,
Anything that you want to shout from the rooftops, but nobody ever asked?
no, I mean it's mostly just trying to work on mid-journey stuff right now, and then try to occasionally not also try to occasionally also take time off so I recuperate, and then try to get the new projects
Self-care.
going, and uh,
I know you're such a
I
busy dude.
yeah. Um, let's see other things. Yeah, trying to been doing some music things lately with friends, like like having music friends together, and everyone plays music and stuff.
You play an
I
instrument?
do like random little things. What's that?
You play an instrument?
I can, but not so much. Usually, I more just like get all the music friends together. Like
And have them
I'm like
jam for you?
people say like I'm the I think people like to joke that I'm like the number one fan. Like
Yeah, I totally get that.
um,
I think it might be a Gemini thing.
yeah,
We gather
maybe
people.
that's
Right,
interesting.
well,
Um, I don't know. Yeah,
I
I
hope
mean,
that I
I think.
didn't,
Hmm?
I was just saying, I hope I didn't take the chance for somebody to ask something important. I was just doing my every once in a while, Kinky come up on the stage and ask a random question thing.
No, nothing too crazy. I guess I'm like, I guess I reading things. I guess I read things still. That's kind of. I try to like news is all about politics nowadays, so that's kind of a
Yes.
buzzkill.
Yeah, it really is.
I try to stay out of that, and then but I've been reading things like there's this been reading the ancient Chinese poems called Cold. I think the poems of Cold Mountain, and basically there are it was like this hermit that lived there's like this rich guy went to a monastery like 3,000 years ago, and he's like, I'm looking for the enlightened man, and they're like, oh, talk to this crazy guy, and it's like some homeless person who asks for food from the monastery, and but they didn't tell him that. They're like, oh, that guy's totally enlightened, yeah, go talk to him. And then like they sent him to like this place called the Cold Mountain, and he goes to the Cold Mountain. There's this guy living in a cave there, and he like says, I heard you were enlightened, and he basically laughs at him, and yeah, I'm enlightened. Okay, yeah, see you later. And as the guy's like heading to go back because he didn't find what he wanted, he starts seeing all these poems like scribbled on the rocks and scribbled on the wood. And he gets out his book and he writes down the poems. And these poems are known as the poems of Cold Mountain. And they're like these really sort of like sublime and beautiful, like weird ancient poems from this that the hermit actually wrote on the mountain, because the hermit was like apparently a smart guy who was just sort of going there because he was old and he didn't want to interact with people anymore. But so you're kind of reading these poems that somebody wrote down that were script like that copied down that was scribbled on a rock on top of some cold mountain somewhere 3,000 years ago. So that's what I've been reading lately.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
so
love
cool.
that shit. That's great. I'm really
I
into ancient
definitely just
literature.
put that on my reading list.
I think it's
Um,
probably hard to find Cold Mountain by as translated by Burton Watson. This one's pretty obscure. Yeah, it's Cold Mountain, 100 poems by the Tang poet Hang Shan. I don't even think you can get an ebook of this one, so I got like a physical copy.
oh,
Yeah.
nice. Be cool to have like
Um,
a prompt and like a read and prompt, or like listening to poems and then prompting like what we saw in our minds about it.
yeah, there's a lot of like great stuff in there. Like there was this one that stood out to me that was like on the Cold Mountain. Somebody he wrote on like some on some piece of wood, something like um Like all the problems in a human's life comes from the fact that we only have 100 years, but we're born with 1,000 years of woes, meaning like the 1,000 years of our ancestors. We're kind of like inheriting all this, but like we're inheriting all this sort of without enough time to really fully address it all.
It's like an embarrassment of riches. It's so much like that we're gifted with, and we don't even really. Yeah,
Yeah, I
like
think
you
it's
just
kind
said.
of like obviously like we live in a big society nowadays, and you could say there's a lot of that too. But there's even like 3,000 years ago that you're kind of born into this world with the consequences of 1,000 years of your ancestors, and like just dealing with that is sort of like a lot of the challenge of being alive.
Yeah,
And so
I think there's
a
a,
lot
a
of little
phrase
things like
going on
that.
around about that lately, but it's a little political.
Oh, you didn't just fall out of the apple tree, the coconut tree. Yeah.
Oh, I was talking about unburdened by what has been.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't think we can be unburdened by what has been. I think there's,
Yeah, you have to live with
I
the consequences of your ancestors.
think, yeah, you can't really be unburdened by what's been. Yeah, this is like you can't really forget the past. You can't really, but there is a future, and the future will be really different. So I don't know, like, yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. So I'm reading some of that. There's also like another book from um Rockefeller's. I think they call it like Rockefeller's letters to his son. So like the
Hmm.
Rockefeller, like this crazy one of the richest people ever to live, you know, wrote a bunch of letters to his son for when he died, and then they weren't meant for anybody else, but they eventually got published like several generations later. So you can like literally read like him trying to tell his son how to like live, like how to survive in the world, which is like crazy. That like it's crazy that exists, like it wasn't meant to be read by anybody else, but you can just like crack open a book and read what this guy wrote to his son, 100 years ago.
Yeah,
That one's pretty crazy too. Um, those are reading some books right now. Trying to get
awesome.
outside. Some days it's warm, some days it's cold. Try to, whenever I'm not working on things, I try to kind of, work on, just appreciate the world and life and just think about things.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. It's rare that I read something that's not 1,000 years old if it's like not science fiction. So the Rockefeller one is not. Yeah, I usually don't read things like that, but it's pretty good. I think I ran out of sci-fi for a bit right now, so been reading more old stuff lately.
I was just saying how I miss the tiger and water, uh, you know, tiger water talk, and then I made a bottle of tiger water. You can have that. That's yours. If you ever want to sell tiger water, I designed you a bottle further up in the chat. Uh, but
Mhm.
also, hey, everybody come to prompt battles.
Come to the
Prompt
prompt
battles are
battles. They're on
awesome.
the weekends, I think. They're on the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
When is it?
True. They are on Saturdays and Sundays. I'm going to throw the calendar up because it shows what time it is in their neck of the woods. But speaking of prompt battles, would you ever let us have a giant like prompt battles competition to design the merch?
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking of doing some kind of merch contest. I don't know the right way to do it, but I definitely want to have more. Yeah, I want to try to. It would be fun to have it rally everybody around that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like,
You
it
could just
wouldn't
do
have to be like a
something.
standard prompt battle. It would, like,
You
it could
could
take
you could and
weeks.
you. Oh, I was thinking of doing like a swag one where we just like kind of like one of the Grimes events, but just focused on swag.
Ooh, yes. Love that. All right. Well, I don't want to hold you up. Maybe somebody with a more important question than I had can get up. But I hope you have a wonderful day, and it was good talking to you again. And I'll see you next time.
Sounds good. I
Bye
think that might
bye.
be it for today for me. I'm not sure if I don't know if I think I'm gonna call it early. Try to yeah. But thank you everyone for coming. We do these every week on Wednesday, 12 p.m. I'm gonna try to keep them a little shorter, but get through more questions. So, do those sorts of things. We're gonna keep working hard on new models and new features and new web stuff, and hope everybody enjoys it as it comes out. I want to thank everybody for being a part of the community, and I will see everyone next week. See you later, everyone.